The president back in January told the New Yorker magazine, David Remnick, that ISIS is the JV team. That was clearly wrong.
Well, I think it's wrong, too. I think it's a major varsity team, and if you want to use those kinds of monikers. But I've seen nothing that compares with its viciousness.
Well, that major varsity team is still a major threat in Iraq and Syria. Now, President Obama is turning to Congress to authorize his military plan for action against ISIS. Senator Feinstein, Vice Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, joins me now. Senator, great to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Well, you certainly were right as to the threat that we faced. Now, what about the way the war powers language that he has sent up? Because there's criticism already from both sides that the language is too ambiguous and that it either, some say it gives him too much authority and some say it would permit boots on the ground, that it's not restricted enough.
As I understand it, Andrea, he worked with the Foreign Relations Committee to try to craft something that met both sides, the doves and the hawks. Now, whether that's really possible or not, I don't know. But I do know this. ISIL is now known to Americans. We've seen the beheadings, we've seen the burnings, we've seen the hostages taken, we've seen people frog-walked and then essentially mowed down. We've seen massacres, we've seen Christians killed simply because they were Christian and not Muslim. So it has a much higher profile than, let's say, AQAP, which is more remote, equally dangerous to America, but more remote. So what is wanted is an authorization for use of force that's legal. I think the 3 years is fine. I believe very strongly that we have to use special operations, that we have to motivate under, I think, Jordan's leadership now, Arab nations who are willing to put boots on the ground and really fight this thing, and that we provide the technical, the backup, a lot of the kinetic response that's necessary. Not going to be easy, because one of the things that we've all seen is the metastasis of these groups. They start out as one thing, they merge into another, they move to other areas, and they are a dominant threat to peace in the world today. I really believe this. There's never been a time when there are more threats to the United States than there is now. So, as I said once before, we're either going to fight them there or we're going to fight them here. And I believe that. So how the United States works out its role, the kind of leadership it provides in terms of command presence, in terms of leadership, providing equipment, bombing runs, special operations that can do a number of different things on the ground is important. And making that legal in terms of an authorization to use military force, I think, is critical.
I want to ask you about the hostage families. The Muellers, Kayla Mueller's family, I've been told, actually, tried at one point when ISIS gave them a threat, an email threat, release this terrible woman who's been imprisoned in Texas, convicted al-Qaeda terrorist, Siddiqui, release her within 30 days or we'll kill Kayla. That time frame went and had passed, so it became moot. But they had asked the White House to release Siddiqui, and there are other hostage families who believe that we're not doing enough, that we're not permitting them to raise money privately and get their children home the way the Europeans were released, by paying ransom. What should the president do?
Doing enough is destroying ISIL, and that's what has to happen. We cannot provide funds for ISIL to get more armament, to kill more people, to cut off more heads, or to burn its victims. And so I am not in favor of dealing with these people, and it's terrible to say because it is so hard to do. And that's why this AUMF is important, that the Congress come behind the president with what is a strategy and a tactical, I hope, piece that will meet approval.
Let me ask you just finally about Ukraine. There is a ceasefire today. Do you think it can last? Do you still think we should arm Ukraine to fight, to defend itself against these Russians, clearly Russians? Last time, Russian separatists grabbed all kinds of territory during the ceasefire, broke the ceasefire. Why should anybody trust Vladimir Putin?
Well, we'll see. I think this is important. I think it's a step forward. I think the ceasefire by the end of Valentine's Day is important. We'll see if they roll back their heavy equipment within the 2 weeks that's set out, and we'll see what kind of votes can be taken. Look, Russia has over 1 million people in its military. It's well armed, it's well trained. I think it makes no sense for the Ukraine and Russia to have a major war and for us to get dragged into it. What does make sense is to work out an agreement that hopefully both sides can agree to. I suspect it'll eventually involve Crimea. That's okay. But I think what's really important is that the people on the east side of the Ukraine have a say in their destiny. So the degree to which this can be done and the terms can be worked out, the IMF is loaning more than $10 billion to Ukraine to put its house in order. That was announced this morning. That, too, is good news. So the right path is begun, and I want to congratulate the European leadership, actually, for that very long negotiation session and coming out with something tangible.
Senator Feinstein, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Right.